Welcome back, all my fight fans. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for UFC 308, October 26th in Abu Dhabi. I'm extremely excited for this fight card. On paper, it might be the best fight card of the year, maybe one of the greatest fight cards of all time. I know it has a lot to live up to with how amazing 300 was, but I really think this card could live up to the hype. It's hard to judge a card before it happens, so we'll see. But I'm going to run through the prelims, as always. I'll leave timestamps in the description if you guys want to skip around, and then we'll spend more time on that main event, especially those main two fights, because they're really interesting. So, kicking us off, we have a light heavyweight bout between Ibo Aslan and Rafael Sakira, and I have no idea who either of these guys are, to be completely honest with you guys. This is the one fight on the card that I'm just completely oblivious about. I see that the one opponent, Rafael, doesn't even have a photo on the UFC website, so I'm excited to see how these guys look, and I'm excited to learn some new names. Next up, we have a welterweight bout between Rinat Fakhretdinov, I apologize for all the names that I will butcher today, and Nursultan Rizaboyev. Now, Rizaboyev is an interesting fighter because he stands at 6'5" at welterweight, which is insane. When he fought Buckley, I believe Buckley's like 5'9", and 5'9" to 6'5" is just a huge difference in height. That was a really funny fight to watch. But as much as I like Rizaboyev, he's from Uzbekistan. He's got a cool style. As much as I like him, I got to take the Rinat guy. He's a high-level striker from Russia, and he's a minus 355 favorite currently, and I think he's going to get it done because I think he just has a higher striking IQ, and I feel like that reach, as amazing as it is at a welterweight, to have such a height advantage, I don't think it's going to work out for Rizaboyev, but I'm cheering for him. I like both of these guys, so I hope it's a fun fight. Next up, we have a middleweight bout between Ismail Nardiev and Bruno Silva. That's an easier one to pronounce. This fight, again, these are two fighters who aren't the most well-known. Bruno Silva's 23-11. He has 20 wins by knockout. And the Moroccan fighter is 19, and 4. And I'm probably going to side with him in this bout. It's a very close fight. I think this is very well matched up. I'm going to take the Moroccan, but this one could go either way. It should be a very fun fight. Next up, we have a bantamweight bout between Farid Basharat and Victor Hugo. Not the French writer Victor Hugo, a Brazilian Victor Hugo. If there's any Brazilians out there that want to explain to me why so many Brazilians are named after Victor Hugo, please let me know, because it's really weird how many, just in combat sports alone, I've seen so many Victor Hugos. It's really weird, but I'm going to take the Afghani fighter in this one. He's 27. He's undefeated. He's a minus 380 favorite, and I'm really excited to see what this guy looks like against a good opponent in Victor Hugo. So this should be a very fun bout as well. Next up, we have Kenny Nchukwu Wu versus Justin Tafa. Man, there's some hard to pronounce names on this card. We have Nigeria versus New Zealand here. I really like Justin Tafa. I hope he gets the win here, but I'm probably going to side with Kennedy. I've seen him fight a couple times, and he's got a lot of power, as most Nigerians do, and I think this is going to be a slugfest. Somebody is going lights out in this heavyweight bout, so I'm going to side with Kennedy. He's ranked at number 14 right now. I hope he gets a big win and gets another big fight at heavyweight. Next up, we have a middleweight bout between Abus Magomedov and Bruno Ferreira, and I believe Bruno Ferreira's only loss is actually to Rizaboyev, so he's coming off of 2 first-round knockouts. He looks really good. I really like Abus. He's a German-Russian, which is a weird combination. He's a very technical, very smart striker. He just doesn't really have that killer instinct that I see from Bruno Ferreira, so I'm going to take Bruno in this fight, probably by knockout in round 1 or round 2. This fight I don't think is going to last too long. And then we have a bantamweight bout between Said Nurmagomedov, that is not Khabib's brother, it's one of his cousins, versus Daniel Santos. Nurmagomedov is obviously a favorite, minus 230. I'm probably going to side with him, but he's not the greatest Dagestani fighter, so just because he has the name Nurmagomedov, don't bet all your money on him, okay? He could easily lose this fight. I'm going to take him to win because I think this is a favorable matchup for him, but yeah, that's what I have for that fight. Next up, we have a lightweight bout between Mateusz Rebecki and Mitsabek Orobai. I don't know. This Kyrgyzstani fighter, I'm taking him for sure. He seems like such a chill dude. I love how he looks like he's built like an Easter Island statue. And the way he fights, honestly, is very entertaining. He fights like a raging Mongolian sometimes. Like he's 13-1-1, and he's got some power behind his punches. I'm going to take him to win this fight. Next up, this is the last fight on the prelim. So our prelim headliner, we have the number 10 ranked at welterweight Jeff Neal versus Rafael Dos Santos, ranked number 13 still. Rafael Dos Santos, RDA, as you guys know, he's 32-16, super long career. He's coming off of a loss. So is Jeff Neal. This is a perfect fight, two veterans. And I'm going to take RDA just because I really want him to win. This is a totally winnable fight for Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal's a little bit more in his prime, and he is the favorite going into this fight. So I don't blame anybody for taking Jeff Neal in this. I'm just a bigger fan of RDA. I have so many great memories watching his best fights of all time. So I'm going to take RDA. I hope he gets the win in this one. And then we move on to the main card. So kicking off the main card, we have a middleweight bout between Shara Magomedov and Armen Petrosyan. Now, Bullet versus Armen, an amazing fight. This is two kickboxers who are highly technical, very, very skilled, facing off against each other. This is an amazing way to kick off the main card. I'm a little bit sad that we don't have the Cyril Gane and Volkov fight. I was upset that we didn't get that on the France card too. I thought maybe they should have given Gane the edge there and put Gane and Volkov on the France card, but it's not on this card either. It got dropped. I believe it got re-added to UFC 309, so we'll get to see that one play out there, but I'm a little bit bummed out that Gane versus Volkov's off of this fight card. I was really looking forward to that. But next up, we have a light heavyweight bout between the number 2 ranked Magomed Ankalaev and number 5 ranked Alexander Rakic. Magomed Ankalaev is a minus 380 favorite, and I suspect that he will get this done. He's 19-1-1. His only loss came to Paul Craig. It was a last-second submission, literally last-second submission. If he held on for just a couple more seconds, he would have probably gotten the win in that fight. So Ankalaev, for all intents and purposes, is pretty much undefeated, and he's the one fighter at light heavyweight that I think could really pose a challenge to Pereira. I've been saying that for the last year. I've wanted that fight for the last year. I think it's the next fight that they're going to make, unless Jones and Stipe both retire and we see Tom Aspinall versus Pereira for the vacant heavyweight belt. I would love to see that fight first. I'm not going to lie. That's an amazing fight. That's a blockbuster fight. I will take that over Ankalaev versus Pereira, but I really want Ankalaev to get his shot because he is a very dynamic striker. He can hit you with knees, front kicks, head kicks, all sorts of different head kicks he has. He's got spinning kicks. He's got great roundhouse kicks. He's got a very sharp jab. He's got so many tools. Plus, he can wrestle. You know, he hasn't really shown his wrestling because he is more of a striker, even though he's from Dagestan. But he's got that in his back pocket, too. So I think he's the most complete fighter at light heavyweight, and I'm really excited to see what he does against Rakic because I love Rakic. He's one of my favorite fighters at light heavyweight as well. I think he's super underrated. He's got a really fun style, but I don't see him pulling this one out, unfortunately. He's coming off of a loss. Ankalaev's coming off of a win. Ankalaev's been surging for a while now, so I'm going to take Ankalaev by finish. Probably in the first 2 rounds, when you have 2 strikers that are this skilled matched up against each other, it's probably going to end kind of quickly, so I'm going to take Ankalaev by 2nd round KO. Then we have a featherweight bout between the 12th ranked Lerone Murphy and the 14th ranked Dan Ige. Now, Lerone is obviously the favorite. He's 14-0. He's got 7 wins by knockout, 6 first-round finishes, and I have to take him to win this fight. I love Dan Ige. He's super tough, and he's one of those gatekeepers that can kind of pose a challenge for anybody. But I just think that Murphy has too much power, and he's probably going to put Dan Ige out, unfortunately. I'm going to take Murphy by KO round 3, I guess, because I think it'll take them a while. They're featherweights, so it usually takes a while for them to, really land those punches. But at middleweight, we have an awesome fight. I've been waiting for this fight for a while. It's been canceled. It's been rebooked. I really hope Khamzat Chimaev actually shows up for this fight. It's weird because when he first came into the UFC, man, he had like 3 fights in the span of 2 months. I believe 2 of them were like 8 or 10 days apart. He looked like he was going to be a world beater and just run through the rankings, take 2 or 3 belts, and defend them all actively. That's what it was looking like. And then the opposite happened. He took a long time. He's been pulling out of fights. He's been getting violently ill. That's the term that they're using. I don't know what that means, but I really hope Chimaev bounces back and has a good performance here. He's only 30 years old. He's still pretty young for this weight class, for middleweight. And I think he can do a lot at middleweight. I think he can take the belt and defend it as many times as Anderson Silva, really. Because there's a lot of fighters at middleweight who are high-level strikers who do not have the wrestling to stop Chimaev. Now, if there's one guy in the division that I think actually has the defensive wrestling to maybe stop Chimaev, it might be Robert Whittaker. He has very, very underrated takedown defense. We saw it in the Yoel Romero fights. Now, obviously, Yoel Romero, even though he's a Olympic quality wrestler, he's a better wrestler than Chimaev, in my opinion. He never really wrestled in the UFC. Like, he wrestled a little bit at the start of his career, and then, like, I just watched the Izzy Yoel fight the other day because it was on Fight Pass, and just watching that was, like, so frustrating. Because if he shot one takedown, he would have taken the belt from Izzy, and it was frustrating to watch Yoel's career. But like I was saying, Robert Whittaker has amazing takedown defense, and if there's one guy in the division that might be able to stop Khamzat Chimaev, it's Whittaker. He's tough as hell. You watch those Romero fights, I think he could take a beating. So I'm pulling for Bobby in this one, but if I have to put my money, I'm definitely putting it on Chimaev. I really don't see anybody at 185, nobody at 170 for sure, and maybe not even anybody at 205 stopping him. I mean, he could go and claim 3 belts if he gets his health together. He is a scary fighter. Now, that being said, I think when Chimaev eventually faces Bo Nickel, that's when he's going to run into his kryptonite, because I do believe that Bo Nickel is a better wrestler than Chimaev. So that's kind of my dream fight down the line. I would like that to be for a belt, but for now, Chimaev's kind of my guy that I'm rooting for at 185. I look at all these strikers like Sean Strickland and Dreykus and Izzy, and I'm like, man, if you guys were in there with Chimaev, it would be a long night, or maybe a very short night, because Chimaev is so damn violent. So I'm taking Chimaev. I'm going to take him by decision. I think Robert Whittaker is just too damn tough to get knocked out or stopped by Chimaev. He's a very smart fighter. He defends chokes very well as well. So I'm going to take that by decision. And then we have the main event, the fight that's, oh man, this fight is tickling people in the comment sections on Instagram, I can see, because there's a lot of people in the know that are saying, like, Max is going to get knocked out here, and I hope you guys are prepared for it. And there's a lot of diehard Max fans who are like, no way, Max Holloway is going to outbox Ilia Topuria, and he's going to show him that he's still the top guy at the division. I have to say, guys, I've been a Max Holloway fan since I was 13, 14 years old. Like, since that kid broke into the UFC, I've been a huge fan of him. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. I don't see him getting it done here. There's a couple ways he could, and I'll talk about that in a second, but if we go over the attributes, power, Ilia beats Holloway in power for sure. You watch the way he put out Volk. You watch the way he's put out some of his last performance, especially Jai Herbert in that performance. Absolutely devastating the way that he got knocked down, immediately got up and grabbed the leg, and then in the next round landed that vicious combination to knock out Jai Herbert. Like, when it comes to power, Ilia has the edge. When it comes to speed, Ilia has the edge. When it comes to technical boxing ability, if you watch a lot of boxing, you know Ilia definitely has the edge. When it comes to kicking, Ilia probably has the edge. When you see those leg kicks that he landed against Volk, he only had to land 2 or 3, and Volk was like, his leg was getting swept out from under him and almost knocked him over. So when it comes to kicks, I'm giving that to Ilia as well. When it comes to fight IQ, I got to give that to Ilia. The way he fought Josh Emmett was very, very smart. He took very little damage in that fight and stood on the feet with a power puncher the entire fight and was just landing everything that he wanted to land on Emmett. That was a masterclass performance. And then you go to the ground game. Like, striking-wise, I think he beats Max Holloway on the feet. But you go to the ground game. I mentioned this in my Could Ilia Topuria Become the GOAT video, which it's somewhere on my channel. You guys can go check that out. I think he has a legitimate chance because of his age. He's got to obviously stay more active than he's been, but he's only 27, and he has all of the skills. When you look at his ground game, his first 7 fights, 6 of them ended in the first round by submission. I believe the 7th fight was a second round submission. So 6 of those were first round submissions. In those 7 first fights, they were all ended by submission. He used 5 different submissions. So this guy's a world-class jiu-jitsu player on the ground. He can wrestle. He's from Georgia. He can definitely wrestle. I'd say he's probably a similar level to Merab. Like, honestly, he can freaking wrestle, Ilia. He's a very, very smart wrestler. So he has every single aspect of the game going for him. He has got the power, he's got chin, he's got great cardio so far. I mean, we haven't seen him push to 5 rounds, but maybe Max will do that. We'll see. But he's got every single stat going for him. Now, if there's a couple stats that I have to give Max, there's very few, but there's a couple. Heart, perhaps. We'll have to see it in the fight. I can't judge Ilya's heart yet, but Max has shown us an incredible amount of heart in a lot of his fights, especially those Volkanovski fights. He showed incredible heart, incredible will and determination to keep fighting. He's got a crazy chin. Nobody's ever knocked out Max Holloway. I think Ilya's going to be the first, but he's got an incredible chin, so he can take punches with the best of them. He's got like a Mark Hunt type chin. Like Max Holloway is one of the top 5 chins I've ever seen in the sport. So that can help him in this fight. And the biggest thing that I can give to Holloway over Ilya is the volume punching. That's the way that Max Holloway has to win this fight, is he has to get on his bike early. He has to keep moving. He can't let Ilya cut off the cage, because Ilya's amazing at that. He did that to Volk almost immediately. And that's like what Volk does. Volk likes to pressure people, and Ilya cut the cage off immediately. So Max Holloway has to be on the front foot. He has to be coming forward, and he has to use high volume the entire fight. Now, I know he can keep that up. I've seen him do it against guys like Poirier, where he's just throwing punches the entire fight, start to finish. If he fights Ilya like he fought Poirier, and he doesn't get hit with the same shots that he got hit with by Poirier, because Ilya has a different kind of power, Max can win this fight. He can steal rounds off of sheer volume, off of sheer activity, and this is a winnable fight. This is not like a close case. Ilya's definitely winning. But in my mind, and everything that I've been watching from the start of Ilya's career till now, and I've been watching Max Holloway's career play out, obviously, I just think Ilya's built different, man. And I don't like to use MMA math, but if you look at the opponents, Max Holloway struggled with Volkanovski 3 times, and Ilya Topuria in the second round was able to completely dispatch Volk. Now, I know that that's a different Volk. That's Volk after fighting a war with Islam and getting head kick knocked out by Islam after that. So I know that that's a different Volk, but still, the way that he dispatched Volk was outstanding. And you guys can go watch my video that I made on Ilya. I think that he truly could become the greatest of all time in this sport if he stays active. He's got everything on his side. He just needs to stay active. And I got Ilya by round 1, round 2 KO, because he's just that terrifying, man. Like, if you guys watch boxing, I watch a ton of boxing. I probably watch as much boxing as I do MMA. And what I see from Ilya is special. I've never seen anybody box like this in the UFC. The way he shifts his shoulders is boxing like. The way his head movement, it's not always perfect. He sometimes keeps his head on the center line, but his head movement's great. He'll duck under punches and set up hooks just like a boxer. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch, and I really hope he goes on a really long title run here, and we remember Ilya as one of the greatest of all time, because he has that potential. So I really want to see him tap it, and I hope he actually gets the win this weekend. Even though in my heart I'm going to be rooting for Robert Whittaker and Max Holloway. I'm going to be sad if they lose. If I'm using my brain here and I'm using, logic, I have to bet on Chimaev and Topuria. You just have to. You have to look at what they've done. You have to look at how dominant they've been, all the skills they possess. I mean, Khamzat could probably outstrike Robert Whittaker. He's that good on the feet as well. So it's going to be a fun night of fights. I'm going to be heartbroken and happy no matter which way the fights go. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait for these fights. Don't forget to let me know. Don't forget to let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Who do you guys have winning all these fights? What method do you have them happening? Who are you rooting for? Let me know all that stuff down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Enjoy the fights. Peace.